We've had a raft of resources companies reporting results this morning in the midst of a continuing strike problem and labour unrest in South Africa. But yet the JSE has just hit another intraday high. We're joined now by Alwyn Van der Merwe, who's Head of Investments from Sanlam Private Investments, to tell us if there's still value in the South African market in light of these negative news items.
Bubble territory for me is an area where the behavior of investors are characterized by almost like herd instinct and irrational behavior. And I'm not convinced that we've seen irrational behavior. You might find, if you look at the market and you dissect the market, that some shares are starting to look quite expensive. But even within the basket, the overall basket, you can still find shares that still reflect decent value, where I certainly don't think we are in bubble territory. When the risks start to build, one of the ways that you can reduce the risk, of course, is to diversify. So if you think that our own market is expensive, but you still want to be exposed to growth assets, then you've got to look offshore. And we still think, we can find value offshore. So that is if you only analyze the valuation of the asset class, equities in offshore markets. Of course, there's another dimension that you need to add to it, and that dimension is the value of the currency. And we know the rand was particularly weak, and the rand has strengthened a bit. And I think anything between 10 and 10.50 to the dollar, we would use the opportunity to diversify offshore. That will certainly reduce the risk in your portfolio. The market at the moment is certainly not paying attention to the election. And it's actually quite interesting, because if you analyze the situation going back to, in fact, 1994, every time around election time, the market got quite jittery, and it actually provided a buying opportunity. This time around, I've seen very little evidence of that. It all boils down to what you pay for the particular asset. So the news flow around resources certainly not great. As you mentioned, we've had significant losses to the platinum producers in particular. I think it probably adds up to about 14 billion rand, which is a phenomenal number. Add to that some doubts about the growth prospects for China, and therefore the demand for commodities, and also commodity prices not really being at low levels. However, having said that, one's got to pay attention to the valuation that you pay for those shares. And if you look at the two most dominant diversified miners in South Africa, Anglo American and BHP Billiton, both of them, if you value them on a price to book basis, are trading at very low price to book valuations relative to their recent and in fact longer term past.